trying to defeat death. There was nobody working on trying to defeat death. And so I determined that I would become an entrepreneur, make a whole bunch of money by age of 30, and then with money go out and try to do something useful. And I sold Braintree Venmo when I was 34. I made a few $100 million, and then the question was real. Now I have the money, what do I do? I hired a team of 30 medical professionals. I've become the most measured person in history. We combed through all the scientific literature on health span and lifespan, and then we put all the science into me. And then we did the therapies that would reduce my biological age. So I'm chronologically 46, and we were saying, is it possible that we can stop aging? So one year of time passes. Can I stay the same age biologically or get younger?
Do you think you can beat the game?
I think it's the first time in Homo sapien history where someone can say with a straight face, maybe.
Dobar dan svima, hvala što ste došli. Ovo predavanje će biti malo drugačije od ostalih predavanja i 100% je zato što će 100% biti najkraće predavanje. Šalim se, 100% je zato što je to tema ovog kratkog predavanja, a tema je kako da dođemo do 100%. Šta znači 100%? To je pitanje koje mene muči dugo. Da li sam sebe postavio za uspeh? Da li radim stvari na optimalan način? Da li dajem svoj maksimum? Da li sam uradio apsolutno sve što je bilo u mojoj moći? Ovo je takođe jako često zapravo centralno pitanje preduzetništva, jer preduzetnici uglavnom imaju jako male resurse u početku. Malo novca, malo vremena, neki više, neki manje, ali uglavnom je to jako malo. I oni moraju da izvuku 100% da bi uspeli. Oni nemaju drugog izbora. Takođe u preduzetništvu razlika između uspeha i neuspeha je često jako mala, nekada i manja od 10%. Da li će biti product market fita, da li ćemo postati profitabilni, kada će biti sledeća investicija, to često može da se odluči u nekim zadnjim mesecima našeg života, to je života firme, i ako imamo 12 meseci, desi se u 10. ili 11. razlika između uspeha i neuspeha je manja od 10%. Sada ćemo vam kratko pričati o zabludi modernog doba. Postoji jedan čovek koji radi 16 sati dnevno, spava 9, trenira 2, meditira sat, provodi sa porodicom 4 sata svakoga dana. I znate kako sve to stiže? Tako što mnogo dobro laže. Nemojte da vas lažu. Pogledajte ovu sliku. Šta kaže naš voljeni Elon Musk? Ja radim 120 sati nedeljno. To on tvrdi. Međutim, taj isti Elon Musk je bio na svakom podcastu i konferenciji barem 3 puta. Ja znam jer sam ja lično, kao njegov veliki fan, sve to uredno odslušao. Provodi nebrojene sate na Twitteru, odgledao popularne filmove, serije, prešao sve moguće igrice, pročitao sve knjige, slušao podcaste, izuzetno aktivan socijalan život, što on tvrdi i drugi koji se druže sa njim, i na sve to ima 11 dece. I sada kad zaberemo levo i desno, koliko ima sati u jednoj nedelji? 300? Nema. Ovo je zabluda. Ovo je zabluda, ovo je marketing, ovo je signaliziranje. On signalizira investitorima da je jako predan, signalizira zaposlenima da oni treba da rade, da daju svoj maksimum. On prenaglašava koliki taj maksimum zapravo jeste da bi postigao neki cilj. Da li ja verujem da je on radio neke nedelje 120 sati? Verujem. Da li radi svake? Sigurno ne. Treba da imamo realno očekivanja šta je moguće, šta nije moguće. I da vidimo da li je više stvarno više. Ako uložim više sati, da li ću dobiti veću produktivnost? Pa, odgovor je ne. Imamo ovu obrnutu U krivu koja govori da jako često u životu previše nečega što je dobro može da bude i loše. Kako se to odražava u poslu? Pa, žrtvujem san, iskrenu fizičku aktivnost, socijalni život i tako ću da izvučem 100% i da napravim profit. To kaže popularna kultura, to tvrdi naš voljeni Elon Musk. Međutim, realnost zapravo pokazuje neke malo druge stvari. Šta se zapravo desi? Dignemo kvantitet, opadne kvalitet, onda od umora opadne kvalitet odluka koje su ključne u preduzetničkom putu i onda stvari krenu nizbrdo. I sada imamo mnogo naučnih radova, istraživanja, svega živoga što se dešava, koje zapravo pokazuju da od više rada ne dobijamo više profita i ova grind kultura se polako ispostavlja kao lažna i pre svega toksična, negativna. Zašto? Postoji optimalan broj radnih sati i ne bi trebalo ići preko toga. Koliko je to zavisi od vas, to i sami treba da odlučite, pričat ćemo sa još nekim temama, ali to sasvim sigurno nije 17 sati dnevno koliko tvrdi Elon Musk, verujte. Naravno, samo treba ovde napomenuti, kratkotrajni sprintevi su ok. Ako imate neki projekat, nedelju, 2, 3, jak grind, to je ok. Na duže staze, ne. Naravno, opet treba reći, ja nisam protiv rada, ja sam za jako veliki rad, nisam za nerad, ali treba znati koliko i kada. Ajde da vidimo kako da dođemo do tog optimuma. Šta je rešenje? Ja sam čitao članke, knjige, kurseve, YouTube videe, naučne radeve, sve živo što možete zamislite, ja sam ovoj temi pročitao, istraživao duboko i na široko. Toliko da sam čak sa Vladom odlučio da napišem jednu knjigu koju ćemo uskoro izdati, baš na tu temu. Ali šta je zajednička tema, na šta se sve to svodi? Pa, svodi se na to da određeni broj sati mudro oduzimamo od trenutne efektivnosti, od trenutne produktivnosti i investiramo u dugoročnu efektivnost. Pauziramo, naoštrimo sekiru, pa nastavimo sa sečom. Na šta možemo da utičemo? Na psihu i na telo. Kako? Pa zajedno. Jedno bez druga ne može. Sada ćemo dati jedan jako brzi pregled sa koliko vremena imamo ostalo, da vidimo prilike šta možemo da uradimo. Psiha, mozak, možemo da mu omogućimo da procesuira bolje. Ovo su neke sada metode. Možemo da menadžujemo dopamin, to jest da smanjimo jeftin dopamin. Znate sami šta je to, sve što volite najviše, to zapravo nije dobro, tako da bi trebalo pažljivo sa tim. Možemo dobro da organizujemo naše vreme, da ga planiramo, da imamo jedno tvrdo ne za stvari koje nisu korisne, a sami znate da nekada pristanete na stvari koje nisu korisne. Trebalo bi da optimizujemo uslove i okruženje za flow. Flow kao stanje na visoke, duboke fokusiranosti, koje zapravo nama daje najveće rezultate, najveći povrat na naš trud i rad. Trebali bi da efektivni rad imamo kao 100% efektivni rad i efektivni odmor kao 100% efektivni odmor i ništa između toga. Stvari koje su između toga ne postižu ni jedno ni drugo, verujte, praktično gubite vreme. Treba da imamo ispravne ciljeve, šta to znači? Kratkoročno laki i ostvarljivi, dugoročno teži i ambiciozni, ali podeljeni u manje ciljeve koji su kratkoročno ostvarljivi. Svaki ostvareni cilj treba da bude praćen ciklusom odmora i slavlja. Za kraj možemo da radimo vežbe fokusa, kao što su meditacija, gde se vreme provedeno u meditaciji nama vraća višestruko, kroz vreme vraćeno kroz produktivnost. Možda ima nekih negativnih konotacija sa meditacijom kao religijske svrhe, nije po pravoslavlju i tako dalje. Ne bi se baš puno bazirao na to. Ovde je u pitanju medicinska meditacija koja se uči vežba fokusa. I naravno, bitno nam je stanje tela, što ćemo pričati malo kasnije. Rekli smo, možemo da procesuiramo bolje, brže, ali sa druge strane možemo da olakšamo mozgu tako što ćemo procesuirati manje. Možemo da ograničimo šta ulazi u naš mozak da bi imali više vremena da procesuiramo ono što je bitno. Znači, imamo ovde klasičnu skicu sa sferama uticaja i interesa. Ako na nešto interesuje, a nemamo uticaj na to, ne bi trebali puno da se bavimo tom temom. Znači, treba da nađemo presek stvari koje nas interesuju, a na koje možemo zapravo da utičemo. Požari u Grčkoj, sudari vozova u Indiji, tsunami u Japanu, to nas sve interesuje, ali nemamo mnogo uticaja na to. Trošenje vremena na tako neke stvari nije racionalno. S druge strane, možemo da olakšamo našem mozgu tako što ćemo stvari zapisivati. Ništa nećemo da pamtimo, sve ćemo da zapisujemo i taj metod se zove kolekcija, to je samo komplikovan način da kažemo zapisivanje. Mozak nije optimizovan da pamti. Mozgu je jako teško i skupo da pamti, mozak je optimizovan za procesiranje i mi treba da mu olakšamo tako što ćemo sve živo što možemo da zapisujemo. Sledeća stvar, kako da procesuiram manje, pa mogu da delegiram i da automatizujem. Delegiranje je super, automatizacija je super. Šta možemo? Manje, više, sve prostije poslove koje imamo, repetitivne poslove, to sve treba da bude automatizovano i delegirano. Zašto? Zato što svaki put kada radimo neke najsitnije poslove, mi menjamo kontekst, a promena konteksta nije jeftina i nije besplatna našem mozgu. Iako to nama deluje, kada radim neki multitasking, da je to instant, nije instant i ima svoju cenu. Za kraj, možemo da izbacimo negativnost. Možemo potpuno da izbacimo negativnost iz naše života. Negativne vesti, crna hronika, negativni ljudi, čak i ljudi koji su vam bliski, a negativni, trebalo bi ih izbaciti ili popričati sa njima. Negativnost vam ne treba ni u kom obliku, ni u kom smislu. I naravno, ovde isto bitno stanje tela. Za stanje tela je u suštini ključno da postignemo 100% zdravlja. Sada ovde dolazimo do definicije zdravlja, to je 100% zdravlja. Mi smo odgajani sa nekom definicijom zdravlja, gde zdravlje znači nismo bolesni, a ne 100% smo zdravi. Između nismo bolesni i 100% smo zdravi postoji jedan veliki prostor. Jedan veliki prostor gde zapravo većina ljudi provodi većinu svog života. U nekom stanju su hronično upale, imaju neke hronične zdravstvene probleme, ne unose dovoljnu količinu minerala, proteina i tako dalje, provode život u neoptimalnom stanju. Sada, kako mi možemo da dovedemo naše telo u 100% optimalno stanje, u 100% zdravlje? Pa, prvenstveno je spavanje tu, kao ključna stavka. Koliko spavamo, koliko kvalitetno spavamo i kada spavamo. Kada spavamo je bitno da li je u skladu sa našim biološkim satom, da li spavamo u isto vreme svakog dana. Koliko spavamo, ispod 7,5 sati, jako teško da možete namiriti svoje potrebe. Mnoga istraživanja sada izlaze na ovu temu i sve one priče o preduzetnicima koji spavaju 2-3 sata, polako kreću da padaju u vodu, jer sva istraživanja pokazuju da postoji veliki pad fokusa i produktivnosti ukoliko ne spavamo dovoljno. I sve te priče o uspesima, a sa nespavanjem, meni deluju dosta sumnjivo. Ishrana, nećemo dugo o ovome, ali ključno je visok sastav proteina, visok sastav zdravih masti i nizak sastav šećera. Šećeri su jedan veliki otrov i trebalo ih izbjegavati maksimalno. Ja sad ovde, ove teme prelazim onako malo baš high level, Bryan će proći malo dublje o sve ovome i sada sa ishranom imamo i suplemente. Kroz ishranu mi možemo da postignemo dobre rezultate, ali ne možemo 100%. Jednostavno, telu su potrebni neki mikronutrijenti koje bi jako teško bilo uneti samo kroz ishranu, a suplementacija omogućava da unesemo potrebne mikronutrijente za svaki organ, za svaki proces, za svaki hormon. Za kraj imamo fizičku aktivnost. Fizička aktivnost koja je nešto što je nama evoluciono potrebno. Mi smo evoluirali da budemo fizički aktivni. Mi nismo evoluirali da sedimo u stolici svaki dan, da kolima odemo na posao i da se kolima vratimo sa posla. Naše telo zahteva fizičku aktivnost, zahteva da se digne puls, zahteva da se oznojimo kako bi svi mehanizmi u našem telu radili kako treba. Sada naravno imamo stanje psihe koje utiče na fizičko zdravlje i fizičko zdravlje koje utiče na stanje psihe, oni su neraskidivo povezani. Međutim, šta se dešava kada uspemo i psihu i zdravlje maksimalno da optimizujemo i da dovedemo do 100%? Dešava se nirvana. Svaki dan smo naspavani, svaki dan smo fokusirani, svaki dan smo dobro raspoloženi, svaki dan smo 100% efektivni u radu ili u odmoru, kreativni, srećni. Kada ovo osetite, vi nećete želeti nikada da se vratite nazad. Zašto vam ovo govorim? Zato što ja sam osetio. Ja sam pratio Bryanove metode, pratio sam razne istraživanja i ja sam stvarno doveo sve aspekte mog i fizičkog i psihičkog zdravlja na jedan maksimum. Produktivnost, bistrina misli, kvalitet sna, energija koju sada imam, to nisam imao do pre nekih 3 meseca. Pre 6 meseci sam napustio Connect the Dots i krenuo sam aktivno da se bavim ovom misijom. Hoću svoj život da usavršim do kraja. Hoću da optimizujem sve procese, hoću da optimizujem psihički, hoću da optimizujem fizički. Mnogo sam proveo vremena istražujući, međutim mislim da sam sada načeo negde tu formulu. Kada probate, ovaj osjećaj i kada ga osjećate konstantno, jednostavno više nećete želeti nazad. I neke žrtve koje mislite da podnosite zbog ovog osjećaja, vremenom nećete videti kao žrtve i navike ćete u potpunosti promeniti. Rekli smo, jedna posljedica je nirvana, a druga posljedica je i dugovečnost. Već sada imamo gore ove grafike koje pokazuju da bez truda medijana prosječnog života raste. Za 100 godina 55% je skočila. To jest 0,3 godine za godinu. Ovo je medijana, prosječan čovjek. Ako uzmemo 1% najbogatijih, oni žive 10% duže. Znači njima 10% raste brzina kojom uzimaju godine za godinu. Ako uzmemo 1% stvarno zdravih, koji prate Bryanove savete, koji uzimaju suplemente, koji imaju fizičku aktivnost, ovo je još duže. Šta se dešava? Životni vek raste, ali raste i health span. Health span je nešto što su zapravo korisne godine aktivnog života. Možemo da živimo dugo, ali ako smo zadnjih 50 godina bolesni, pa nismo mnogo postigli. Znači, health span se povećava, a medicina i nauka tek kreću da rade na ovome, što znači da ćemo vidjeti jedan eksponencijalni rast. Koliko ćemo mi živeti, ostavljam Bryanu da to nama kaže. Jel imamo Bryana? Hi, Bryan. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Hello. It's very nice to see you.
Likewise. Nice to be
here. We have a really nice conference here with a lot of young people, and they would really like to know more about your movement. So could you tell us more about how did it all start? How did the old Bryan live before the blueprint?
Yeah. It started with a thought experiment that I was imagining that I was in the 25th century listening to what they were speaking about, and they were observing the early 21st century, the time that we live right now. And they were contemplating, what did we humans do in the early 21st century that allowed intelligence to thrive in this part of the galaxy? And I thought about this question for over 10 years. And the answer I think they would observe is that this is the moment when Homo sapiens thought that we would turn our attention to don't die. That previous to this, we had a culture where death was inevitable, and therefore we played games where death were inevitable. But on the eve of giving birth to superintelligence, the species shifted to a unifying game of don't die, don't kill each other, don't kill the planet, and align all intelligence with don't die.
Thank you. So what made the old Bryan start thinking about making these changes? Where did this idea come from?
When I was 21 years old, I had lived among extreme poverty in Ecuador, dirt floors and mud huts. And I came back to the United States, and I had this burning desire within me that I wanted to spend my life trying to be useful to the human race. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't really have any skills of note. And so I determined that I would become an entrepreneur, make a whole bunch of money by age of 30, and then with money go out and try to do something useful. And I sold Braintree Venmo when I was 34. I made a few $100 million, and then the question was real. Now I have the money, what do I do?
Do you think you could do anything more useful than this?
Yeah, it was a question, like if you have a few $100 million and you can decide to do one thing, what do you do? And so what I did is I wanted to warm my mind up to the possibilities. And so I went around the United States and I held all kinds of, several dinners, and I would invite my smartest friends and I would give them a thought experiment. And I would say, imagine that we're in 2050 and we are amazed at how amazing the world is. What did we focus on in 2016 to make that possible? And then I would intently listen to everyone's answers. And people would observe things about what was in the zeitgeist in 2016. And then I wrote all those things down on a paper and I put a box around it. And I made a rule for myself. I can't do anything inside the box. I can't work on anything anyone else is working on. And the one thing that was outside the box was trying to defeat death. There was nobody working on trying to defeat death.
Great. So can you tell us more about what Blueprint is? Can you give us a very brief summary, like 3-minute summary to our guests?
Yeah. Yeah, Blueprint, Blueprint is an example of how we as a species play don't die. And so what I did is I hired a team of 30 medical professionals. We've measured every organ of my body. I've become the most measured person in history. We combed through all the scientific literature on health span and lifespan. We ranked all of it according to power laws, and then we put all the science into me. And then we did the therapies that would reduce my biological age. So I'm chronologically 46, and we were saying, is it possible that we can stop aging? So one year of time passes, can I stay the same age biologically or get younger? And that's what we've endeavored to do over the past 3 years. And so it's interesting, like for example, my speed of aging. So inside our bodies, we have a clock that shows how fast we're aging. I'm currently aging slower than 100% of 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and 99% of 20-year-olds. Among a data set of 23,000 samples of people who are working very hard to slow their speed of aging. And my cardiovascular ability is in the top 1.5% of 18-year-olds. I have all these different markers that what we've done is actually amazing. And so Blueprint is an endeavor to say, can we actually get to age escape velocity? And so our one year passes and I stay the same age. And then if we do it with me, can we apply it with each other? Can we apply this to planet Earth? So replace my body with planet Earth and go through the same process of measurement and protocol and therapy to make sure Earth is sustainable for us as a species.
Do you think you can beat the game?
I think it's the first time in Homo sapien history where someone can say with a straight face, maybe.
So cool to hear that. You want to give us some key physiological results that you achieved?
Yeah, let me pull this up. I'll just give you a few. Yeah, so we talked about my speed of aging. My body inflammation is 85% below the average 18-year-old. My total bone mineral density is in the top 0.02% of 30-year-olds, which is age men. My nighttime erections are better than the average 18-year-old. Nighttime erections are a meaningful indicator of sexual health, psychological health, and cardiovascular health. I'm in the top 99.5% for muscle volume, bottom 0.05% for visceral fat, muscle fat, and subcutaneous fat, top 1% for sleep performance and recovery. So you get it. We've done a pretty good job.
So I want to dig deeper into psychological results. Can you give us more about that? Like, how do you feel now compared to before the Blueprint? What's your inner feeling?
I've never been happier in my entire life. I was chronically depressed for a decade, and I had 3 babies. I was in a challenging relationship. I was trying to leave my religion, and I was building a startup. And those things collide, and they just create a disaster of a circumstance. And I was chronically depressed for 10 years. I couldn't get out of it. And in 1 year's time, I sold my company. I got a divorce. I left my religion, and I tried to recreate myself from scratch as much as possible. And I would say now, a lot of people read the headlines about me and they say, he's an eccentric billionaire. This is so weird. He's not living life. This is awful. And the reality is, it's the exact opposite. I've never been happier. I've never been more stable. I've never felt more at peace. When people hate on me, I love it. I don't have a negative emotional reaction at all. And I think I maybe would have been upset about it before. So it's interesting that people's knee-jerk reactions are probably trying to protect themselves from their own bad habits. But yeah, I've never been happier. And I think of myself, my former self, as a slave to my passions and emotions, that, overeating or staying up late or having bad habits. I just don't have any bad habits, and it's really nice to be free of those things.
So if your morning routine took twice as long to do as it takes now, would you still do it?
If I could feel this good, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. So we want to give our guests here something to take away home. So if you could do only 20% of the routine that you do now, what would it be, for example, 4 workouts?
Yeah, I'll give you the power laws of, so you do not need to do what I do. You can get the majority of the benefits doing the following things. First is remap your identity so that you consider yourself a professional sleeper. So just like today, we all showed up on time to this conference and to our meetings. When your bedtime arrives, show up on time and go to bed every night at the right time. So it's your most important meeting of the day. And to have great sleep, you can go to bed on time every day. You can also eat earlier in the day. So eating late and heavy meals will ruin your sleep. Eat lighter and earlier and test it out. And then do certain things like if you can have a blackout room, that's great, or an eye mask. But prioritize, make sleep your number 1 priority. Number 2 is get exercise. And if you have 0 today, even a little bit is better than that. Ideally, it's an hour a day. It doesn't really matter much of what you do. You can kind of choose your thing, but an hour a day is optimal. And then 3 is try to eat some healthy foods and try to stop some bad foods. But if you do those things, then it really is a really strong starting point. Sleep is the most important because when you sleep well, you're going to have the ambition to then exercise. And if you exercise, you'll have the ambition to eat well. And then, of course, there's vices, which we have to watch out for. But it's just getting the basics in place, which really allow you to start.
And for supplements, are there any magical supplements that you could take?
There's not any magical supplements. I mean, we went through a process where we said every calorie and every molecule has to fight for its life for inclusion. And so extra virgin olive oil is my favorite food. I eat 15%. So my daily diet is 2,250 calories exactly. And 15% of that is extra virgin olive oil. But it has to meet very specific criteria to do the function in the body. So I'd say whole foods are the best in terms of the supplements. And then you can round out things with pills. But it's also important, if you can, to get blood work to just find out where you're at, because sometimes people's problems may be coming from a deficiency of sorts.
Okay, thank you. And last few questions. And these are mostly questions that come from me, because I couldn't find any answers about them from your previous YouTube videos or articles. So what do you think about sauna and heat exposure?
Yeah, it's great. I don't do sauna as part of my practice, because what we did is we combed through all the scientific literature and we found the power laws, the things that have the biggest effect on health span and lifespan. And sauna didn't make the cut for the number of things I do. And what we found is if focusing on the power laws really helps focus my daily activities. Once you get down to a certain level of things you can do, there's hundreds of possibilities. It's just too many things to do. And so we had to prioritize. And so sauna didn't make the cut specifically for my longevity objectives. Now, for other things, it's great. So sauna is good. You can absolutely do it. It just didn't do it for my specific objectives of trying to reach age escape velocity.
On that same topic, cold exposure?
Same thing.
Same thing. No effects on longevity, but it's nice for us personally.
That's right, yeah. And if the evidence is emergent that shows it, we're all in. Like, we're happy to change our opinion at any moment. That currently we just don't think the evidence is there on either one of those that for our longevity objectives.
Okay, and one more question related to things I want to ask is water filtration. I use a reverse osmosis water filter, and I couldn't find like any statements that you made about that. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, I have a custom-built water system at the house, and we recently did a test There's, I think it's called citywater.org, and you can sample the water for something like 200 to 300 variables. And yeah, I got a 300 out of 300 score of perfect water. So the gentleman I hired to do this, I actually need to figure out what component parts he used, but he nailed it. LA water is bad, and so the fact that it's making that into a good water is impressive. So yeah, we do measure it closely, just like everything. We find measurement is the key to the success of this project.
Great, thank you so much. Do you have any last words?
Yeah, I would say we are in this epic moment of time, and the world is so loud and the present is so demanding that it robs us of the incredible nature that we are on the eve of giving birth to superintelligence. After over $4 billion years on this earth, we're here, and it's this moment we have. And we have this opportunity to build what is potentially the most extraordinary existence in this part of the galaxy. If we can be sober enough to see this moment for what it is and not be silly and revert to our old ways of war and destruction. And when I say destruction, I mean self-destruction, alcohol and drugs and overeating and not sleeping well. We do the same thing to planet Earth. We do the same thing with war. Like we're a species of destruction to ourselves, to others, to the planet. If we can be sober enough to realize this moment we're in, we really could have the most extraordinary experience in this part of the galaxy. So I hope that all of us can work together to do this, because it's really an unimaginable moment we have right now.
That's a lovely message, Bryan. Thank you so much. Let's give
you.
one applause to Bryan. Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you for having me.